Hey everyone, Bryan Baylon here, and today I have another video for you, and I'm giving you guys a real estate market update for Phoenix, Arizona, Maricopa County for June 2020. And lots of things to cover today, lots of really interesting things that are happening in the Phoenix market. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel so you get updates. Hit the notification bell as well. That'll give you, whenever I post a video, a notification that I have something new for you that hopefully can add value to you and your real estate decisions. So here's the thing. This year has been a whirlwind, a very crazy year in the world, in the local Phoenix area. And the market, the real estate market is changing rapidly, especially since the past 2 months. So stay-at-home orders have been lifted May 15th. And we're starting to try to get back to normal. And although things are not fully normal, we are now leaving that time frame of uncertainty into normalizing markets. Unemployment had just gone down from 20% to 14% when it was released on Thursday. So there is good news out there for sure. But let's compare. So these numbers are basically from they're from the Cromford report. And some of these observations also come from the Cromford report. And we're comparing June 2019 to June 2020 year over year. And active listings. So any listing or home for sale on the market, it's down 29.4% this year from the numbers last year. So a large chunk of the supply went under contract and a little was replaced by new supply or new inventory. So similar reasons to why the supply isn't being replenished like it was in the past. That if home buyers or home sellers were to sell their homes, then they're just going to be buying at a higher price anyway. They may have equity, but they don't necessarily feel the need to move, because if they do buy a house at their same price point, they might have to downgrade. Right, the same, say, $300,000 home. Maybe 300 square foot less in a different neighborhood. So if you've bought a house anytime really in the past year prior, since like 2009 or 8, then you pretty much have equity in your home, and buyer or sellers aren't seeing the need to have to sell their homes to upgrade. So what I've heard homeowners say is that they want to, rather than sell, they're upgrading their homes. They're holding rather than selling. They just don't see the need to. There's not enough incentive or pressure in the markets. So what happens for buyers really in this case is that the buyers will find increased competition for the same homes. What I've seen with my clients, have 4 right now that are buyers. They are, like, every time I put an offer on a home that they've liked the house, that they've had multiple offers, and they've had to they have to compete with other offers that are very strong, actually. So you're either having them close to asking, at ask, or above asking price. So if you're a buyer right now, you're definitely going to see some increased competition. So under contract listings, this includes any type of pending or under contract backups, or contracts that require the buyer to sell their current home to buy another one. All under contract listings are up 4.5% year over year. And this is actually pretty remarkable because we're seeing less supply replenishing, like I went over before, but markets are still increasing in demand. Biggest reason for this is the recent move-ins from the other states and abroad, and those that are renting that are really ready to buy. So monthly sales are down 33.5%. Much of this is really just due to the lower supply in the market. Last year it was around 12,000. Now it's around high 7s for monthly sales. And the monthly median sales price is up 5.4% to $293. So basically the median sales price is, of all the sales that happened last month in May, take the most common sales price, the one that's most found in all of the total sales prices, and that's the median price. And from last year in April to last month in April to May of this year, we've actually seen a decrease in this number. It was 299 last month. Now it's 293. But the biggest reason why that is because the larger amount of homes under 600,000 are making up the portion of the sales per month or last month. So anything under 600,000 is selling a lot more frequently than homes over 600,000. So that's why the median sales price is shifting lower. So what are some observations based on that data, and what else I've witnessed and observed in the data and also in the Phoenix markets? So luxury homes have had less sales, but they've had an increase in under contracts in May. So we're going to see that reflected in the June numbers. It takes typically 30 days or more for homes to close. So that's what you'll see there. And that might shift up. Maybe in June, we'll see an increase in median sales price. Resale sector closings are down 40%. So that's really where the inventory is hurting the most. Just home sellers aren't selling their homes. They're holding on to them. They're opting to hold and remodel. But here's the interesting one: is new home sales are up 1% year over year and make up 20% of the home sales in May. And that's the highest since 2008. And new homes typically sell for a higher price than resale homes, but that's just because they are larger than resales. Of course, more square footage, and since a measurement of price is price per square foot, the more square foot you have typically, and this is not the same for all across the board because it depends on type, location, all that stuff, but usually if you have more square footage, it's going to be slightly higher because you have extra square feet, you have a bigger home. So what's going on in the world and even in our local community that's going to affect the real estate market? So here's some of my observations. One, that COVID-19 is still out there. And in June 2nd, there were 1,100 new cases in Arizona, which when I've tracked has been one of the highest numbers that I've seen. Protesting, actually, when you think about it, protesting was perhaps one of the most recent mass gatherings of people and may have contributed to the numbers. Now, I was just speculating that, right? I'm not 100% certain, but mass gatherings seem to not help, i.e. some religious organizations that have met have had significant or have had COVID-19 issues when they've gathered in mass. So watching these numbers and how federal and local governments respond with more restrictions is just something to watch out for. So if we continue to see an uptick, which Tina in the Cromford report, I'm not going to quote her, but through some of her observations, have said that we're really more in not even in the first wave, isn't over, right? We haven't even seen the peak of the first wave, so we're still in it. And the second wave perhaps is yet to come, depending on where we're at in terms of solutions to COVID-19. But how they respond now, if there's a certain point or threshold where we see the cases or deaths or some factor, some key performance indicator with COVID-19 cases and how it's affecting the population, increases to a point where they require more stay-at-home orders nationally, that's going to definitely affect demand, obviously, in the same way that it did in March and April. So that's something to watch out for and continue to use as a indicator for positioning yourself. Now, interestingly, for buyers in March and April, when the stay-at-home orders were in effect, that was actually a little bit of a chance to breathe. So imagine the market going 180 miles an hour in January, February of 2020. March and April, it slowed down to 80 miles an hour. So think of it as like a speed bump in the real estate market, as buyers weren't going out as much and looking at homes. So instead of competing, with 5, 6, 7 full price offers and above, you were competing with a few, 2 or 3 or one maybe. If it does happen again, if you're a buyer and we're still able to purchase homes, which it was deemed essential last time, I definitely recommend trying to make a jump there, as that could be the breath of fresh air you need to get a home that's on the market. Another two, and this is actually very interesting. It's a large concern that's sort of in its beginning stages. It does need to mature if it's going to be an issue, but right now it's enough to say monitor, and it has to do with mortgage forbearance or default. So in the CARES Act, there was a provision of the CARES Act to give tenants and homeowners 120 days deferment of rent or forbearance on your mortgage in order to basically stave off the pressure that COVID-19 and stay-at-home orders have had on the economy and therefore people's jobs or small businesses. So with that said, what we've seen is unemployment numbers released this week stated 14% unemployment rate, 2.5 million jobs were added and were returned to Americans in the past week, really. That's a great sign, but it's still something to monitor. And here's why. Now, it could continue to improve, which would be good news. But there's still a population out there that doesn't have a job, right? Currently, they've been laid off. And then unemployment is very difficult to obtain at this point, although it's more significant sums. I think the maximum right now is around $2,700 a month that you can get from unemployment. If you were making more than $2,700 a month would pay for in your previous job, and you have the responsibilities at, say, an income of $5,000 a month, then you're still in trouble and having to make adjustments in order to pay for your mortgage. And your mortgage at that point, if you were living close to, like at the level of your means, then your mortgage might be 27 itself or very close to that amount. So people, if jobs don't return fully to what they are soon enough, and the stay-at-home orders or not stay-at-home orders, but the deferment is lifted, then we're going to start to see people unable to pay for their mortgages or rent. And rent's important because renters are owned by landlords who may also have a mortgage on those homes, and now they also could be defaulted because the renters are not paying. And then the process of eviction can take 3-4 months if done quickly. So that's a lot of time for a homeowner or a landlord to be paying a mortgage without any rents, and may not even be able to recover those rents if they're not willing to go through legal action, or if the tenant isn't willing to repay. So you can see some of the concerns here with that. So here's some of the numbers to watch out for. And primarily that number is the notice of default. So if a homeowner is in default, it actually goes on default more than enough time. I think it's around 3 or 4 payments before that missed payments that they go under notice of default. Now, each mortgage servicer will have different criteria for that based on contract, but typically it's a few payments before. One missed payment does not constitute a notice of default, but a few payments does, so 3 to 4. But once you start to see that and notice the 3 to 4 month lag, right? So we are still in deferment now. Let's say end of June or even July that it's lifted. The 120 days is lifted. March, April, May, June. Yeah, so end of July. So in August, people are now due on August 1st. Their 120-day deferment is gone, and they have to pay their mortgages, and they don't have the money. It's going to take some time before they are in default as well. Unless the mortgage company decides if you don't pay it now and we've deferred it for 4 months, then we're going to start the process. But the key is you want to watch out for that number. So here's some preliminary numbers that are for April. And these are just the early signs. The official report has not come out yet. But 3.6 million homeowners national in the United States are past due with their mortgage at the end of April. So that includes normal delinquencies or forbearance. So 3.6 million homeowners, right? In Maricopa County, we have just over 1 million rooftops. So you can imagine that 3.6 million homeowners, that engulfs the entire supply of real estate of homes in the Phoenix area. So that's quite significant, and this is national. So the national delinquency rate doubled in April from like 3.5% to around mid-7%, which is 3 times the previous record for a single month delinquency since late 2008. So 3 times the previous record. So that's pretty significant for an uptick in default or in forbearance or for delinquencies. But right now, overall, though, in foreclosures, right, and actual issues of those in foreclosure, we're still at record lows. But early warning signs tell us some story, some value. So with all that said, how do you approach the market right now if you're a buyer? So interest rates continue to remain low. Lending restrictions continue to be higher than normal times. Whether you're VA, I think FHA was a 580. Now they're at least a 620. Conventionals are 620 plus. Really, what I've been getting from lenders is that 640 across the board is the minimum now. And remember, it's a minimum. So if you're towing the line, your debt to income ratio and all other factors on your credit or your financial history have to be in fairly good shape and above. So I think the National Association of Realtors said the average credit score of a family who bought a home in 2019 was in the 700 pluses, like 710 to 730. And usually if you're in the 700s, you'll get pretty good rates at that. The highest bracket, of course, is between 780 plus to get your best interest rates, but they're still low. I have clients that are getting 2.75, 3.1, 3.25. I mean, these are just really, really solid interest rates. When 2 years ago they were in the fours and maybe even mid to high fours at one point. So really great time. We're seeing a lot of people refinancing as well to take advantage of those lower rates. So with all the talk about foreclosure, should you buy a house? Well, here's the thing. If you are in a position to do so and you need a house, I'd recommend it's okay, right? It's okay because it's okay to purchase because here's why. Long term, and there's another video I did on this, by the way, but long term, the house will historically appreciate at around 3 to 4%, and that's very conservative. I use 3% as a conservative figure. And you'll at the end of 30 years will have a significant asset that's paid off. So if that's your strategy, right? If you want a house, you're going to live in it for at least 5 or 10 years, so you can weather any financial storms or anything like that, then and fluctuations in the market, then it'll be fine. And then long term, you can see prices increase beyond what we're even seeing today. And it's funny because I have these conversations with potential home buyers or people that are on the sidelines waiting to purchase. And what I tell them is, in about 15 years or so, assuming nothing catastrophic happens, right, 15 years from now. And what I mean by that is like, severe events like World War or something like that. That there would, like our prices here would be $500,000 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Now, that could sound kind of crazy. How could it ever get to 3 million or $500,000 here? But at a rate of 3%, at 300, if you buy a house, let's say at 325 today, at a rate of 3% in 15 years, you're looking right around there, like high fours, mid to high fours, if not 500,000 plus, depending on the area and which improvements you do to the house. So there will come a time where home prices are going to get there. And the number one factor that I know that is because the population is increasing here. As long as it continues to do that, then we'll be in good shape. New builds are way behind in terms of being able to provide active supply to how many people are moving in here. And they're simply not building new builds fast enough. And they're way behind years, like an entire generation. We're talking like, 8 to 10 years behind in terms of new builds because of the 2008 crisis and how builders had abandoned projects or discontinued them. So there have been record lows in production of new builds. So we just haven't, our supply is in the red, if you will, in terms of new build homes. So that's for buyers. For sellers, all we have, right, is the information for today. We have those indicators that we can check to see if it's worth it, right, to hold or if it's to sell. And that indicator is the notice of default. If there's an uptick in foreclosures, you're going to see downward pressure in home prices. And let's say for instance, let's say in Phoenix, Arizona, like 10%, let's say conservative, 5% of the market is in foreclosure. Well, you have 11 to 15,000 active homes, that fluctuate. More conservative, 11 to 13,000 active homes, including the demand that is buying those homes. and you add 50,000 more homes, 50,000 is the number of a balanced market anyway. So you went from a very strong, heavy sellers market in about 18 months to 2 years to a balanced market, which means that your home prices will start to go down. Your houses will sit longer on the market. You might feel the need to start, take a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 cut on your home in order to sell it quicker. But the market will continue to go down. So I would suggest that assuming that foreclosure scenario plays out, that you're looking at the peak being right now, or in the next 12 months, perhaps, unless we see notice of default sooner than that, which we will. And by 12 months, we'll have a much clearer picture than we do today. But if you're ever thinking about selling your home, if you're thinking about making a move to upgrade or to downsize or second home or, whatever, well, I guess second home's it's an investment. But if you ever have anything to do with, wanting to track your equity and turn it to cash out and then temporarily move into something smaller and then write out a potential wave, that might be a strategy to consider. So the next 6 months, continue to watch the videos and stay in tune with the market. Also, right now, if you are in default right now, and you're not sure if you can repay, let's say you do have a job and right now, or some kind of hardship have befell you or your family, and I hope not. But if so, there's options there, and you can perhaps sell and capture that equity, especially if you've owned it longer than 3 years. You definitely have equity in there. And although it sounds tough to hear, better to sell your house, right, and just rent for a little bit, or downsize into something smaller, like if you can do it, townhome or a condo or something, or a smaller single family home, whatever it is, and you can just keep that equity. It's better than that to have to forego any equity that's in there. And it's much easier, right, to sell it ahead of time. Although understanding there's a lot of emotions attached to your home. You want to hold it and fight for it. I totally understand. But just know that is something to think about now, while things are okay, or just maybe in the beginning stages of a difficult time, so that you can think clearly when the crisis hits, if something happens. Anyway, I say that to say just to be prepared. So anyway, that's pretty much it. That is a June 2020 update. If you have any questions, just feel free to comment below, and I'll definitely answer that. I check this YouTube page all the time. Again, I said in the beginning, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Really would appreciate that, as well as hit the notification bell so you get updates on when I post new content. Definitely going to try making more videos and also address some other questions that are coming up with the local Phoenix real estate market, and then common questions that home buyers and home sellers ask about their specific position and how to navigate their circumstances. Anyway, hope this has been helpful and of value to you. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. The contact information is in the description below. And I thank you guys for watching. Hope you have a great night, and we'll catch you next video.